Hey everybody, I'm back to talk about the latest episode of The Strain. Now, if you're new to my channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button because I will be here every week talking about every episode of this show. Okay, now let's get right into this episode. Now, first of all, let's do let's talk about Gus. Okay, because in this episode, they did a bit of a backstory about Gus and why he's so obsessed with keeping his mother alive. Because I know I'm not the only one who was sitting back thinking, why is he holding on to his mother so much? Now, I understand that's his mom, and you don't want to see your parent die and you don't want to be the one to kill them. But at the same time, she's a vampire, so what was the hold on it? But before I get into that, let's skip back a little bit. From last episode, we know that Angel was hurt, and so they took him to one of the centers where, what is these centers called? Eldridge is over them, but anyway, it's like a care center, and so he has to give his fingerprints as well. So I think that's gonna come back to bite him in the butt a little bit later because Gus was very apprehensive about it. He's like, "Why you got to give your fingerprints?" They trying to track people and keep up with people, and when they find out who you are, you may get into some trouble. But I mean, Angel was like, I ain't really thinking about all of that. I'm hurt. I need to get stitched up and bandaged up so I can get better. And so let's talk about the backstory of Gus. Now, when he was little, he had an abusive father, and the father was actually beating him and the mother. And so after a certain point, Gus went and got his uncles and he told them what happened. And so, the brothers came up in there and they was like, look, we told you that he had one more shot to clean up his act and he's hitting y'all again. So we're going to take care of that. And thank you, Gus, for coming to get us. And so the mom was a little sad about it, but at the same time, I mean, he was beating her and him. So, he had to step up and be the man of the house. That's what his uncles told him that he had to be now that his father was gone because they took care of him. And so, you know what? Y'all, I really like that because I love it when there are men in the family who protect the women in the family. I think that is such an honorable and noble thing. Even though they was real, gutter about it and they took care of him. He's never coming back type took care of him. But at the same time, it's like it, I like the fact that they stood up for their sister and they made sure that she was okay and that her children were okay too because it was not okay what their father was doing to them. I wish every family had a group of men that protected the women like that. I don't know nothing about that. But anyway, back to the show. So, this is why he was so attached to his mom because his mother really looked out for him. She took care of him. She sacrificed so much for him. And he made a promise when he was little to always take care of her and be the man of the house. And so now that she is infected and she's this vampire, he feels so bad about the situation. He doesn't want to kill her. But later in the episode, Angel meets up with Gus in the apartment, and Gus had cleaned everything up and, just made the apartment look livable again, real familiar. And the mother shows up while Angel is laying on the couch asleep. And as she's going in to kill Angel, Gus walks in and he shoots her in the head and he kills her. So it's this really touching moment. You can see the pain in his face. How did y'all feel when Gus killed his mom? Did you say he finally killed her, or did you feel a little sympathy for him because he had to do something that he did not want to do? Now I felt a lot of sympathy for him because he loved his mother so much. So in that moment, he decides, you know what, Angel, we got to get up out of here. We got to get as far away from the city as we possibly can because it's so toxic here. And a part of me was like, no, don't go. But I mean, I guess he has to go or he's going to attempt to go. We'll see how far he gets. I want him to be there with the crew. But that's just me being very selfish and not caring about Gus's life, I guess. Him or Angel. Okay, next let's talk about Ephraim and Dutch. Now, y'all, I'm just going to cut right to it. I don't like the fact that they hooked up. Like, what are y'all doing? Even though I understand, okay, we're in this post-apocalyptic era. There are vampires running around everywhere. We don't know from one day to the next if we're going to live or die. But at the same time, I love them as working partners. And Ephraim, he crossed the line all the time, honey, because, him and his old boo thing, honey, they was getting it in anyway. And they were partners as well. But the good thing about it is that they sat down and they listened to the recording of the master's voice. Now, when he let out that signal, Dutch just collapsed and she fell out and she was dizzy and she was nauseous and it really got to her. And it gave Ephraim a headache, but you can tell it wasn't as bad for him as it was for her. And I'm thinking, ooh, what's in that signal? Like, why is it so powerful, so strong? But I guess that's the signal that he put out to paralyze everybody on the plane so they couldn't do anything. And it was very powerful. So that's all that happened with them. Like I said, I was not happy about them hooking up, because I think it's gonna make things weird and awkward. And what are they gonna do when they see Fett? And Fett realizes that now she knocking off Ephraim. Like, come on. Like, I understand, but I don't understand. No, I don't like it at all. No, I'm not cool with it. I hope it's so awkward that they have to go back to just being business partners. I don't like that. Anyway, so moving on to Abraham, Fett, and Quinlan. Now, let's see. Fett and Abraham, they talk with Eldridge, and Eldridge tells them that on that ship there was something that number one didn't want anyone to find out about. And so Abraham and them, they know that there's this box from Egypt that's there. And so they talk to Eldridge, and Eldridge tells him that this guy named Cyrus knows probably where the box is going. And so they go and they find Cyrus, and Cyrus says, okay, let me take you to this warehouse. So he takes them to this warehouse. Now, when they get in this warehouse, as they're going through, Abraham looks to his left and he sees this. Anyway, it's the place where they're going to have a blood bank. Okay, basically a slaughterhouse for humans is what he sees. And he gets enraged and he, hits Cyrus in the face and he's like, I ought to kill you right now. And he just sees what number one has been working on. And later on, he talks to Eldridge about it, and Eldridge is like, in the U.S. right now, it's probably like 100 of them. But we'll get to that. Ooh. But we'll get to that a little later. So anyway, so they go through and they make it all the way in the back. And just as they get back there, they see number one and his right-hand man, and they have this whole shootout. But of course, number one gets away with the box, and they go on about their business. And Abraham and them see, kind of what's going on. So then later on in the episode, when they talk with Eldridge, he lets them know, yes, I knew about the meat factory, blood bank, whatever. I knew about that. But at the same time, I mean, what do you think? Eldridge, he don't care about that. He cares about self-preservation and power. So, I mean, I don't even know why Abraham got as mad as he did. He should expect that from him. Eldridge is a snake. But y'all, I'm telling you, Abraham is so hood. Like, I love Abraham. Like, he is so gangster because he was like, he told Eldridge, I ought to cut you down where you stand. And I'm thinking, ooh, Abraham was something, honey. He still is. I like that he's still so on point. Even though he's an older man, he will still cut you down where you stand. And he means that. And he will do it. And I think Fett really respects him because of that too. Because, he's an older man and he still gets it in. And speaking of people being gangster, how about Quinlan in this episode? Okay, so he goes to see the ancients and he's trying to warn them about the potential threat that this box holds that came from Egypt that the master and them have. And so he's talking to them and trying to warn them, about the things that's going on. And so he told them, I'm going to come back later and we'll discuss what you should be doing. And so when he comes back that evening, he runs into this ambush. Now, at first, the guys think that Quinlan is the one that did it, but no, they weren't. Because, see, number one had a plan. He knew that some of those soldiers, they go out and they feed. And so when they went out and fed, he said, we're going to follow them back and it'll lead us to the ancients. And of course, his plan worked. So when number one got there, he had all these vampires with him. And he said, oh, I'm so surprised to see you here, but I'm glad you're here too. He's talking about Quinlan. And see, his eyes were red. So that means that the master was seeing and speaking through number one. And so he said, okay, I'm going to do away with all of you. Thank you for showing up. It's been a nice ride. Goodbye. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's basically what he meant because when number one left, he set this suitcase down. And so Quinlan was like running behind him, trying to, follow him to see if probably it'll lead him to the master. And so he's running behind him and oh my goodness, did y'all see the choreography with this fighting scenes? Oh, it was amazing. He was just cutting people left and right, ninja style, just straight assassin killer mode. Like I love that moment. It was so gangster. But anyway, so Quinlan is just going through killing people left and right, cutting people's heads off, slicing legs off, and just basically killing everything in his path. He left the ancients back there to do what they gonna do. Them ancients was a little hood too. Did y'all see how good they was fighting? And I'm thinking, y'all so strong and so powerful, and all y'all do is sit around and eat all day. Like, really, y'all have all this strength. So I was surprised to see them be so powerful. So anyway, so Quinlan gets almost to number one, and number one goes on the roof, and he hits this little button, and it explodes, and it gives off. It looks like this UV ray light or whatever, but it's like a bomb too. So all these buildings start falling down around them, and the light shines down there. So we don't know if Quinlan is dead or hurt, but I don't think Quinlan is dead. I think his fate is directly tied to the master. So he may be injured or hurt really bad, but I don't think he's dead. And the ancients, I'm pretty sure they're toast. Like literally burnt to a crisp. Like I don't think nobody survived that, probably but Quinlan. So hopefully if some of those soldiers survive, like the vampire soldiers survive, they don't try to come for Quinlan like he set them up. I hope they don't do that because that will be so crazy. But y'all, that's everything that happened in this episode. If I forgot anything, please drop it in the comments below and we will keep the conversation going. And I'll see you all next week in the next video. Bye.